Welcome to the Design Experience. Today you have the A team. Normally you have the B team for the Design Experience, but today we're bringing in some folks with real boots on the ground and experience. Drew Eubank, EVP co-founder. I lead our engineering and execution teams. And Chip, why don't you introduce yourself to the folks out here in the podcast?
Yep. So Chip Steffey, Director of Sales. I think I've been with Zion for about a month now. So excited to come over from the team. Spent most of my career at UPS, mainly in the 3PL supply chain division of UPS for about 18 years. So yeah, I mean history.
So fun fact, Chip and I were at UPS at the same time. I think I was the first exit of the group that was our age around the engineering team. As I left and went to another 3PL. So we all go back. We all go way back.
Yeah, there's a lot of good talent there.
Oh yeah, man, it's so much. When you look back at what we had and where folks are at now, it's just insane. The number of folks we had that were smart and driven and just can make stuff happen, right? It's just it's fun to look back, nearly 20 years later, right?
Yeah.
When you're going through it, and it's just interesting. Never thought I'd be able to say that. I'm getting old. Too much gray in the beard. So I actually, when they asked me about this episode of who to have, I actually thought of you because we want to talk about engineering and industry challenges. And you just came from a position where you were leading a large engineering team that was in charge of sourcing, implementing, and commissioning technology in a business that traditionally wasn't technology driven, right? It was mostly, hey, how do we get labor in? How do we keep assets low, asset light? Then to realizing the rising cost of labor and everything else. So I thought you'd be a perfect fit for this. So I think, how did you see that evolution challenge-wise take place in your prior life? What were the things that stood out to you as you entered into the, let's go figure out what assets are in building one that we can redeploy to a new site to, oh my gosh, let's get out of our own way and actually go build something?
Yeah, I think the hardest part on a lot of it was, and COVID actually helped with some of it, right, was the cost of labor went up sky high and the availability of labor went really low. And so, with those two factors just, compounding on each other, we had to do something different. We also saw a big shift on volume going from a B2B to a B2C. And historically, UPS, we were very B2B centric. And so there's a lot of case picks and pallet picks. So you're moving a lot of units, but you're doing it with really low amount of handles. And with things going to e-com, it became a lot of units and a lot of handles. And so, the hardest part of a lot of the evolution was changing the mentality of the really operations team. We started with really focusing on software. We worked with our WMS provider at the time to build a warehouse execution system that, helped out our operations a lot, even from a manual environment, and orchestrating and making sure flow was good and work could be executed, and they weren't waiting on a replan or having to come back to order control desk to get their next pick task or anything along those lines. So that helped out a lot. And then, really then plugging in the physical assets to help speed up the process from robotics to conveyance to ASRS systems and everything from there on up. And so really changing the mentality of control, lack of a better term, trusting a system to pick the right order instead of having an individual sit there and look through 3,000 orders and pick the best 5 to go together. They'll never do it right. You just don't have that much time to do that. And so that was the hardest change a lot for our operations team and even our executives to say, hey, we got to give up a little bit of control to get a lot more speed and flexibility, and like a better term, trust the system to do what we needed to do. And over time, we got there. There were some good days and some bad days, as there always is in a change in mentality. But once they really saw it work, it was an easy adoption from there on. It was how do we do more? How we go even faster? What else can we automate or optimize from here? So. Yeah,
I think what was exciting for me is if we go back to like 2008 and 9 when we started up the sprint building, right? And everybody walked in and we had the pick mods and you had all the pick the light, put the light, and you had all the commissioning stations. Everybody like, wow. And if you go back today and had to redo it, we probably could have cut the footprint in half, probably cut the labor force in half, right? Just the advancements we've had since that time has been kind of incredible. One thing that's popped up in industry, and I'm a podcast listener myself. I drive on the road. I like to listen to podcasts, mostly comedic podcasts, but Rogan's big. And I was listening to one the other day and they're talking about the advent of robots. And I think there's a big misconception in our industry with robots, right? They think, oh, robot. They think movies. They think Matrix. They think what's the Will Smith one where he's got the robot?
iRobot. I think it was
iRobot.
iRobot.
Yeah. They don't realize that most of these robots are they're not that advanced. What are some misconceptions you've run into when it comes to robotics, when it comes to material handling?
Yeah, I think it's at different levels. I think the interesting part on the warehouse floor is, they're coming to take all of our jobs. And to your point, I mean, robots are definitely there to help offset labor. There's no doubt about it. That's how you afford them over people. But they actually create different jobs. There's now more sophisticated jobs of how do we use these robots properly? How do we make sure the work that they're executing, it makes sense? Because whether it's a robot waiting at a station or a person waiting at a station, it's still expense that that's doing nothing for you at that moment in time. So, it's created some different jobs of using robotics, but I think the other thing is it also devalues a job, where we've seen the use of robotics has actually increased the value of jobs. People found their job way more enjoyable. Most people go home and they're staring at a screen, whether it's an iPad or their phone or a TV. And, now we bring that kind of environment to the workforce. They enjoy the simplicity of the user interfaces and how it can quickly change from user to user with different languages, or it can display pictures of what they need to pick and things on the, and it makes their job easier. We used to walk into a warehouse, and depending on the size of the account, you spend a day, a week learning where a location was. Where's aisle 42, bay 1, level A, location 4. I don't know. I'll walk around for 30 minutes trying to find this location. Where now with bots, either it's guiding them there, or with take a locus, they just got to go find a bot. And so it's made their job a lot more enjoyable. It's also giving them constant feedback. As a society, we love with technology, instant feedback, instant gratification is a very big mentality that has been developed, and those bots can give it to you. They could tell you at any moment in time, how are you picking for the day? Hey, you did a good job, you're in the green, here's your trophy for being the best picker in the last 2 hours, and create competition. So I think people, the misconception of people who haven't really dealt with those systems or use those systems is it devalues jobs, it takes away jobs, it's replacing the workforce, where really it's giving them more enjoyment. It's giving different jobs and creating new jobs for people, and really just actually increases the culture of a warehouse, because of how those, in our warehouses, there's a lot of different backgrounds. There's many different ethnicities, there's many different nationalities, and you can still blend all that into one operation, but yet still let those people feel, like they're unique, and that they can still, enjoy their culture or enjoy their language as a part of their day-to-day job, without having to adapt to just the American standards. So I think it's a big misconception that people have until they really experience and work with those types of technologies on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I agree. I think the adaptations got easier too. When we first started rolling out any type of mobile robot, we tried to figure out ways to make it fun, like have the team name the robot, put googly eyes on it. So Bob's rolling around the floor with googly eyes, and whoever picked the best that day got to pick the music on the radio that was attached to the robot. So Bob rolled around, it was country, or it was hip hop, or it was whatever it was. And that adaptation period, I think folks realized, it's not taking my job, it's making my job easier.
Yeah.
Right? By the way, I go home and I didn't walk 40,000 steps. I walked 5,000 steps, and I'm not exhausted.
Well, and they're going home on top. When peak volumes hit and people would go working 12, 14-hour days, because of the speed and the intelligence in the bots and the systems and the optimization of the order control, like they still work a 10-hour day. Now they did more volume because it's better organized and it's denser, but they got to go home, and especially during Black Friday, right? That's family time. And so we've got when I was at UPS, we got a lot of feedback of, this is great. Even though it's Black Friday and I just worked my 10-hour shift, I'm still going to go home and spend the night with my kids, or go to the Thanksgiving on Saturday with my wife's family or whatever. And so, we got a lot of positive feedback that it gave them even a better work-life balance for all levels, your ops managers, your supervisors, and then your warehouse employees as well, which, really help with retention and enjoyment.
So when you're solutioning a system, designing a system is one thing, and then it comes to the implementation. Where have you seen the biggest gap, just industry wide? When maybe it's a misconception, maybe it's an oversight when folks are trying to implement this type of technology or any new technology in a solution. Like every solution has challenges.
Yeah.
Right. Customer, oh, we'll just put some conveyance up. Okay, that sounds simple, but it's really not simple. What's the biggest thing you ran into?
I think the funniest part of a lot of it is they don't realize that a system is a system. So it's only as good as the data that's in it. And so, we would love, operators come back and be like, well, the bot's just waiting at a location that's empty. Well, your system says there's 2 in there. Well, doesn't it know it's empty? It doesn't have eyes. It can't count, these things don't have eyes to count how many units are in there. And so I think the biggest learning curve or change was learning that your data in your system determines the system. Though to your point, AI is a buzzword no matter what industry you're in right now. But again, it all works off data. Even ChatGPT works off internet data. And so if the data is bad, you're going to get a bad answer. If the information is bad in your WMS, you're going to get a bad, bot delivery or pick task. And so I think that was fun to work through with a lot of our operations team of the system's going to take what you have in your system and do the best it can for what it's know. It doesn't know that there's only 5 in there versus 10. We got to go clean that up. So I think that was probably the most fun thing to work with our team.
I think the biggest thing for me is a lot of the modern technology forces a behavior, right? Because I think a lot of times, an operations team, you're on the floor, you're working, and you think I have to get 100,000 widgets out the door. And so you have a system designed to do a certain throughput. And as long as you feed it like you're supposed to, it will do what it's supposed to do. But what's operator mentality? I need to do more. And so they try to shove 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag, and they bog down the system. Oh, the system doesn't work, and it's an operational issue, not a systemic issue, right? The more modern techs that we're coming out with now, to me, limit the ability to do that because they're constantly feeding, they're constantly moving things around. And so there's less of that angst of, I'm only supposed to induct 1 carton every 2 seconds instead of putting 6 in at a time on the side and then wondering I have, divert issues and I have misreads. It's feeding more. Did you get to see any of that, run into any of that with some of the newer installs that you had?
Yeah. What was interesting on a lot of it was, we use the racks person solution and people would be like, well, look how fast the bot goes. It's, we can walk twice as fast as the bot. Don't worry about how fast that bot moves. Worry about how often there's a rack or a tote in front of that operator. If there's something always there, you don't worry about how fast that bot moves. And so to your point, there was a lot of, visual speed or, hey, why did that bot move this back here and then move that back up? And then, or why did it go here first? Like, guys, I don't know. I didn't write the code. I didn't write the algorithm, but is there a rack there for them to pick from? Yeah. Okay. Then go work, right? Like go do the work. And so to your point, about the adoption, there's always resistance. Human mentality doesn't like a lot of change. And so when you completely change the way they operate, and they're used again to having that control and being able, to your point, throw people at it or, push a whole bunch of volume through at one time, no matter what the quality of that volume was. To where now it's controlled and hey, you hit 2,000 for 10 hours. That's 20,000. It's pretty good, guys. I'm like, it's a good day. We can go home. It's working through some of that was interesting, and to just see the what people focus on versus, hey, if there's work available and it's right in front of those people, we're good. Just keep going and we'll have a good day.
One of the things that I think that I try not to focus on, but I have a hard time too, is this, COVID sped everything up 5 years. It just, you had, from an adaptation perspective, from a cost perspective, everything suddenly, it was palatable, right? The ROI was actually there. I've talked a lot about there's different ROIs and how our customer base has had to shift, especially as the aging leadership has moved on, newer leadership's moved in with new thought. Like, ROI is not simply dollar for dollar human. It could be space. It could be market share. If I can't get my order out the door, it doesn't matter what I have because I ain't got money on it. I can't service my customer. What from your perspective, led customers down the path to more adaptation other than just like what were those? There's a human element. I'm going to save. I don't need 100 bodies. I need 50. That's always an element. What other elements did you experience with customers as they were bringing in this technology and actually agreeing to it, right? Because a lot of times, if you go back again, almost 20 years, customers didn't want it, right? They saw too much risk in it.
Yeah, I think that, the hardest part of all of it was just prove that it works. Usually when you're suggesting a customer use a new system, no one wants to be the guinea pig. They want to, hey, show me where you're using it today. Show me that you're doing the volume that I'm going to push out, and that you can, the system will stay up time and execute what I needed to. And so I think that was big selling point was, we had to do a lot of POC and prove that it worked. And then, hey, it's hitting right. Okay, now you can deploy the full system and go from there. Another thing is people like the cool factor. They want to see it look cool and blinking lights and bots moving, and they want to be the latest tech, right? That's why, for a while there, everybody would go out and buy the latest iPhone, or all the cell phone carriers, and now it changes to where you can get a new iPhone every year, because people want the latest tech. They probably use 5% of what that phone can really do, but they want to say they have the latest tech. And so, same thing in the warehouse. They want to have the latest tech and be able to execute, but also they can show back to their executive teams, hey, look what we're using in our warehouses, and we're revolutionizing the way we do warehouse. And so we're ready for, allows them to push back to the sales team, like, y'all go sell, we'll catch. We're using the latest stuff that's out there. And so I think those were some of the things of a selling point of, how we got customers to come along. It's exciting. It's fun to use. We would even have them come pick in our warehouses. So they got excited and put their pictures on the screens and stuff. And so, that was a way to sell and make them feel a part of the solution, and ultimately get them excited because, again, everybody wants the latest and greatest that's out there, and be able to promote that as part of their brand.
One of my favorite customers I've ever worked with, the CEO was a chief marketing officer first, right? And it came time to do some enhancements in the warehouse. Like, guys, I'm willing to spend an extra 25% just so I can market my warehouse and show where it comes from, how it's coming from. It's going to lead to more growth. Right. It's going to make that age group that I want to attack and be my next buy group attached to my business. It sees me as forward thinking, and I'm going to take off. And I'm too pragmatic, right? I'm like, good Lord, like, really? Like, you're going to, that's what they wanted, right? And that's just the difference in leadership that's coming up now versus, save, cost, pinch, cash is king. There's more investment mentality, I think, especially with some of these emerging brands, right? You see it in the pack out, for example, where you get a box come in and they want folded correctly 6 different ways and 2 different types of tissue and this color paper on top and a thank you sticker and a thank you note and a koozie and a specialty box. It's all about that brand presence to drive revenue as opposed to let's just get out the door to a person. It's been quite the change. From a software perspective, what do you think people miss the most when it comes to this new tech, when they're thinking about introducing new tech?
Yeah, I think to me, really the key to a lot of this stuff working is, we use that warehouse execution layer a lot. That to the software side of things, again, it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier. The data's got to be right in the system. Again, it's software. It doesn't have eyes. It doesn't have ears. It can't hear, oh, I'm too short. I can't see that. It's too short. It's going to rely on the data in there. But really having the software from an execution standpoint to orchestrate everything is key. Again, it whether it's a human or whether it's a bot walk in with a person walk with a pick card or a bot moving a pick card for them. Having the work there or the product there to complete the pick and not waiting on a replen, or make sure you're working on the VIP orders before you're working on the normal orders or things along those lines. To me, that software execution and orchestration and, constantly, being able to take orders from websites or, from a customer's OMS and then being able to feed it to the floor in the right fashion. And also for service from a pickup standpoint, different carriers have different service pickups for their warehouses based off the service, whether it's a ground or an air shipment or it's, going one of the big carriers. And so being able to make sure that work's done in the right sequence, all software, right? And you have to have software doing that execution more than people, because they just can't keep up. The human just, it's hard to update queries and run large data sets or anything along those lines. You've really got to have, those algorithms and those business rules built into the back end of your systems to automatically do that stuff throughout the day, versus relying on, a person having a good day at the order control desk to get the volume out in the right order. And so, the software side of things to me is the ultimate key in a lot of these systems, to orchestrate and execute properly. The bots will move, the conveyor will roll, the sorter will sort, but it's all based off what that software tells it to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And that's, the ultimate key to all of this stuff to really work well and get the volumes out that, the system is supposed to produce.
So pivot just a little bit. I think an interesting thought that I've had, and one of the ways I used to try to explain modern goods to persons, the first with the person was the carousel, right? It just wasn't very. But if you stood in a spot, spun around, and delivered a pick location, you picked and put it in. And now we have robots doing the same, so everything's evolved. But the industry feels to me like it's almost, what was one thing? The question is, what is one thing you change about the industry? And from my perspective is, we don't see a lot of new stuff coming out. We just see people adapting and borrowing from current. And I would love to see something truly different, right? Being on the integrator side is different because we get a lot of OEMs talking to us about their next great thing. And they thought about something differently. And then you dig into it. And if you look at the 5 components of it, they're all the same. They're just borrowing something else and doing it in a different fashion. What is one thing you'd like to see different in the industry?
From a tech standpoint, I agree with you. There's a ton of copycats out there, to say the least, right? There's one good idea and everyone goes and tries to steal it. I mean, you see it also in social media world as well. It's a very similar mentality. I think the biggest change for me, and maybe this might sound funny, is really the overselling of things. There is an oversell of, AI. Okay. Like, your system runs the same way it did 3 years ago. What all of a sudden became AI, or, hey, look, we integrated Chat GPT to be able to type in what you wanted to pick. Well, don't I have a system to tell it already what to pick? Like, why do I need Chat GPT to do that? Or even the rates, oh, we can pick 5,000 units. No, you can't. Like, that's just physically impossible, or it might be this one use case where, bin shows up, you grab 150 times, or whatever. And so I think it's the overselling or the overhyping, and maybe it's just the way I mentally work. I don't like to oversell things. I want to be confident in whatever I commit to. But I think that's a thing in the industry that's just become way overhyped. And to your point, because of the lack of innovation on some of that stuff, it's a way to sound innovative. It's a way to sound like they're doing something different or something new. And really, it's the same thing. You just said now it's AI instead of machine learning, and which was then before that business rules or whatever, right? Or algorithms. So it's just I think that to me is probably the ultimate thing. Is the oversell is probably the industry thing I'd love to change. And to your point, really the kind of lack of innovation. It's a very copycat world, but there's a reason for that too. Is because those systems work. Usually those applications work, and it's interesting to see copycats try to catch up to the originators, and they're nowhere close. And they think they are, but they have no idea, right? And so, those things are all just very interesting to see, because while on the surface you can walk by and get sold very quickly, if you don't dig in and really find those details, you can be sold a really bad system at the same time. And so, I think that's the ultimate thing. Especially I think really saw it last year at Modex, which was interesting. At UPS, I used to take 3 or 4 folks of our newer engineers, like, hey, go see the industry. And we went to dinner the first night and said, what y'all think? And they go, it's a lot of the same stuff over and over again. I'm like, where's the new fun stuff? I'm like, it's this is what I want you all to see. So that's probably the main thing I would change.
I think you hit on a point that I really like. We've been blessed working with some emerging tech, and there's two things of that emerging tech that stood out to me that we were able to help influence a little to help them out. One was one of the emerging techs wants to guarantee a pick rate, and it's like, guys, stop. Jimmy, Joe, Bob, and Sue have to go to the bathroom. They're going to pick their nose. They're going to have a bad day. You cannot control how fast that human works. So why would you sign up for a pick rate? Sign up for a presentation rate, right? Because if the person's doing what they're supposed to do and you present right, your volume hits. And the second one was a lot of OEMs had success with big brands who have massive capital budgets just to spend, because if they don't spend it, they lose it. And so they go invest in tech and they make a just a massive deal with a lot of cash and capital, and they agree to these terms, and then they try to go to market with it, and it's nowhere close, because that big brand can do that. Most customers can't. So to try to expect the same return every time has been interesting. Did you run into any of that?
Yeah, you know what I thought was interesting was I had an opportunity to tour one of customer sites while I was at UPS, and they ran a very large warehouse for their e-com business with a very at the time industry leading tech and automation company. And we were walking through the warehouse, and I noticed they had a buffer system, they had sorters, they had put walls, they had it was a lot of capital. They spent a lot of money. And we were walking through, and I saw one guy picking the one tote with a cart that could hold 6. So why is he only picking one tote? Oh, we can only pick one wave at a time. Okay, so y'all spend $20 to $30 million, but your people can only pick one wave at a time. This type of investment, the reason you have a buffer system is to be able to pick multiple waves, and then it buffer the wave and release the wave once the wave's picked. Like, you all aren't even using the equipment for what it's used. And so to your point, right, it's just, they got sold. Hey, we'll build you a system that can do, 200,000 units a day. Okay. It can, if it's perfect, or, your flow is perfect, or, to your point, everyone's having a great day at the pick wall in the pick area and on the put walls. And, it's, those are the things that if you don't dig in and really understand what you're being sold, and run all the what if scenarios, which can be exhausting in meetings. So, what if this happens? What if that happens? Like, all right, guys, like, is that really going to happen? Well, you never know, and they can get pretty far out there on the what ifs that people come up with. But those things also do kind of help expose, potential weaknesses or potential issues that could come up, in a day-to-day operation. And so, we've run into some of that, which we ended up helping that customer. It wasn't even our warehouse. It wasn't even, we essentially consulted on their warehouse for free to solve their problem with a standalone software system to run multiple waves, and they almost doubled the throughput. And they're like, this is insane. I'm like, well, just got to dig in a little bit more before y'all just start buying 9 to 10 figure operating systems. So.
The other thing to me too is I think that what always drove me nuts as an operator, and I think one of the things that helped me as an operator, is, why are we worried about the 1% issue? Let's solve the 99% issue.
Yeah.
That was always one that just wore me out all the time. Like, guys, we're worried about the 1%. Let's solve for the majority, and then we'll fix the exception if it could be fixed. But it's not a hindrance to our operating. It drove me nuts.
Yeah.
It drove me nuts.
Yeah.
So earlier we talked about some movies, robot movies, Matrix, big deal. iRobot was a big deal. There was a movie you could be a part of. Like, if you look throughout history of film, which one would you want to be in? Why?
If I had to pick one movie, probably The Sandlot. Yeah, I mean, it's summertime, not a care in the world besides playing baseball, going to the pool. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just
which character though? That's the key. Like, who would you replace? Who would you want to replace?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't want to be Benny, because I don't want to get ran down by the beast. And Smalls got exposed pretty bad about not knowing who Babe Ruth was. Maybe I I don't know, Tommy or Yaya or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be brave enough to be repelled down into to the backyard as Yaya did from the or from the treehouse. So, but no, it's a great movie, and just to me, and fortunately, I've been very fortunate. I've got two great kids. Just shows the fun of childhood, right? And to me, I think sometimes as adults, we get caught up in things that really don't matter. We're at the end of the day, don't change what's going to happen, and being able to see life through the eyes of a kid. They enjoy life. They take every moment and try to make it fun, or go run around and do something silly and not really worry about what someone's thinking about them. Whereas adults, it's all we think about is, oh, what's this person going to say if I do this? Like, they just go live their life. They're like, man, let's just go have some fun. Those, I think that's always very key. And, that maybe always helps kind of put that stuff in perspective of, the biggest thing they had to worry about all summer was whether or not they can get a baseball back. Like, man, it's fun. Like, let's go solve that problem. That's a fun problem to go play. So
I was on a flight this week, and on the way back, I wanted to watch something. The Little Giants popped up. I'm like, heck,
yeah,
I'm watching Little Giants. I'm gonna watch The Fridge and watch
got first down, baby. Yeah,
just those. Number one, it's 35 years old as a movie now, or 30 years old, or something silly, and that made me age a little bit. But number two, to your point, it was like, man, that's when life is simple, man. You got out, like, we're nearly the same age. We grew up at the start of video games. We didn't rule everything. Now, I've got two kids too. My son plays sports, but when he's not playing sports or working out, he's on a video game constantly. My daughter's looking at her phone. I'm like, get outside, go outside, do something. Let me turn on the sprinklers. Go fish. We had a pond behind our house, man. Go enjoy life. Don't get stressed.
Yeah, I got a 7-year-old. He's man, boy's got a motor. And he wears me out. We'll be at 9:00, like ready to go to bed. He's like, dude, let's go play ball. Like, can we go shoot hoops? And there's times I've got to sit there and go, let's go do it. Like, who cares? Why am I trying to be lazy or whatever? He keeps us motivated. He keeps us entertained. But it's just, most of this stuff in life, at the end of the day, man, go back, enjoy your life, enjoy your family, enjoy friends, create experiences, enjoy what you do, and enjoy what you do on a daily day basis. But realize at the end of the day, man, it's that family stuff that's important, and that's what really keeps me excited, and that's why I work, right? Is to give them a great life and be able to afford experiences and stuff like that. And so that movie helps me out. Well, as a kid, I used to always love it. And just reminds me of, man, go have fun. Go play ball under the fireworks because it's 4th of July, right? Like, do that stuff. So.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that question because I'm a big, anything that has any type of mafia undertone to it just intrigues me.
I don't want to get shot at. Yeah,
I don't want to get shot at. Man, how cool would it be to be in Goodfellas and sitting in the club as he walks in with his girlfriend, and he puts the table down up front. You're like, wow, and I don't know, anything with a mafia undertone. I can find any movie that has any type of that type of, and I'm engaged immediately. And the Peaky Blinders, once I actually understood what they were saying, I was hooked. I think I watched the whole series in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, they're fun to watch. I just don't need to be a part of it. But I'll watch it from the outside. No problem being a bystander to see what's going on.
See the delivery guy that gets pulled over in Goodfellas as Tommy breaks in your truck. Tells you to give you cigarettes and Well, man, thanks for joining today. Appreciate it. Welcome to the team. Excited to have you on here. We've known each other for a long time, and hopefully at Zion we give you that work-life balance you're looking for, that margin. We're big about that, and the experience. It's not just with our customers, with our teammates too. So thank you for trusting us and joining us.
Yeah, no, it's been great, and I'm really looking forward to it's been a great first month, and continue on from there. And again, just fun part is solving problems, and while it's challenging, to your point on the implementation, as we talked, or the adoption and all that stuff, but man, at the end of the day, when you can look at a team that's worked their butts off for the last 5 to 10 years, and now it's easy for them, that's a really cool feeling also, right? Like, it's a gratification that you make those people's lives better, right? Not just ours, but our customers' lives better, and be able for them to go spend time with their family, or get the recognition they deserve at their organization is awesome. It really is a really rewarding feeling, and something we'll always continue to try to do for them. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining the podcast today. We're going to have you on again, A team here. We'll let Jimmy and Jordan, those guys, be the B team. We'll just come in when it's necessary and help carry it forward.
Sounds like a plan, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
All right. See y'all.